the challenges of transportation in the 21st century are kind of bound in two areas. One is relates to climate change and how do we reduce our carbon footprint. Transportation is one of the major contributors to CO2 emissions. And then the other is related to quality of life. So transportation is the key element for any livability in any city. In other words, easy access to services and goods. And the more you rely on alternative modes, the better that is. In other words, walking, biking, transit helps in that quality of life issues. For Boulder, it has been a primary focus for at least 30 or 40 years in terms of addressing transportation. It was born out of the concept that we need to be more responsible about our transportation and reduce private auto dependency, hence do it through alternative modes of transportation. So one of the challenges, I think what you mentioned, kind of the link between density, sprawl, and transportation is that you need more density to make transportation infrastructures both economically, primarily economically effective. And one of the challenges that we have is, in one hand, we have a city that 60,000 or so in commutes out of 100,000 people who work here. So we want to reduce that and try to increase the alternative mode transportation to be more attractive. And then internally within the city itself, we want to encourage more people to rely on many modes of transportation rather than just private auto. So the challenge becomes then, in any given neighborhood or location, do you have enough of the densities to support the investment in infrastructure? So for example, for every time you double density, you reduce private auto dependency by 30%. And that's kind of the general rule of thumb. So it's important to look at that whenever we make policies, in that you link land use so that it supports transportation. You make transportation policies so that it supports the land use. So a lot of the work that the city has done actually has paid off. Downtown, for example, close to 60% or more of the people who work in downtown use alternative modes of transportation. And you can ask why. Well, one, it is a lot more compact, and per square mile, it has a much higher density. But most importantly, it has all the components of incentives to take alternative modes. And one of the encouraging aspects of transportation is it's becoming exponential in terms of how the changes are coming, in that there are a lot of things that we haven't thought about that some of the millennials are coming up with, so that disrupting the normal way of transportation, the Ubers and Lyft, and that's one. It's becoming more convenient. It's easier for me to take Uber, so I would do it. Boulder is, I think, a leader in, for example, alternative fuel vehicles. So you may be taking private auto, but if you're actually reducing your carbon footprint by using electric vehicles, I think that's a very positive aspect. I think we now have about 5% of the market, which is phenomenal for a city of 100,000, which I think pushing the boundary and pushing your high-level policy objectives are important, even in the face of not being able to achieve that as good as you want it, because cultures take time to change. But again, on balance, I think the city has done better, and it's been an example for many other cities in terms of its transportation policies, but it's not without its challenges as well. The challenge for transportation planners is to really understand the variety of demands and needs, and then figure out how to make that choice more attractive than the alternative.